Okay, so this is L.I.P.S. It's an open source, ultra cheap SIP and PUF device to help people with severe motor disabilities use a computer. But getting to this final version was honestly an absolute nightmare. The whole thing started at the end of school year. I got an email about an academy for visionaries. I signed up, completely forgot about it, and then got a call telling me to show up for the opening ceremony. I was hesitating hard because it was my summer break after all, and why would I volunteer to do more work? But I went. Now, originally I wanted to pitch a plan to build the world's fastest drone, but talking to the mentors, I got a pretty harsh reality check. They wanted to fund projects that actually help people. Which is fair, the world probably needs accessibility tools more than it needs me building a flying blender. Anyway, later that day, after my daily dose of like 5 solid hours of doom scrolling TikTok, I came across this video about SIP and PUF devices. And I was blown away because these things are life changing, but they cost hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. How is someone who physically cannot work supposed to afford that? I actually tried reaching out to the guy in the video to ask some questions, but unfortunately he just left me on red. So I decided I'd just figure it out myself. Now, just to give you an idea of how this device works. So basically you move the mouse with a joystick using your lip or your upper chin, and to click there is an opening. Now you don't have to go down the tube and break your teeth over time, you just press your lips to it and sip air in or puff air out. Sounds easy, right? Well, when I started trying to find the pressure sensor, I realized there are like 10 different scales to measure pressure. And the difference between them are insane. You've got some measuring 500 kilopascals and others under 1, and a healthy human breathes around 10, but I'm building this for people whose lungs might not be in the best shape, so I needed something super sensitive between 1.5 and 3 kilopascals. Any cheap sensor I found couldn't attach to a tube. The ones that did have a tube opening were so expensive that it entirely defeated the whole point of making an affordable device. So I asked my embedded system teachers and he gave me this great advice to just find a sensor with the right rating, no matter the shape, and we'll figure out how to assemble a tube on it later. Which was genius, but the only problem is I couldn't find any that fit that description either. Finally, after digging forever, I found this tiny $1 sensor that actually did have a tube format, so we crossed that problem out. Since at the time I was pretty new to PCB design, to play it safe I used a microcontroller which I was familiar with. But because I was pitching this for funding, I added a second, way more powerful MCU to the board just to handle some complex math. I literally mashed two brains onto one board, even though I didn't need them. Now, the datasheet for the $1 sensor I was talking earlier was entirely in Chinese, but even when I translated it, I was still lost. I mean, the signal was so tiny I needed a whole external operational amplifier. And at this point I wasn't totally confident, so I made a massive testing board with 3 different sensors on it. The cheap $1 one, another one that used I2C, and a bigger, more expensive analog one that had the whole amplification circuit already built inside it. When I was ready, I sent my schematic to another teacher to review, and he humbled me immediately. My impedance was wrong, I needed a buffer, and I completely miscalculated the amplification resistor because I forgot that SIP and PUF cuts the pressure range in half. But after fixing all that with him, I actually felt super confident. I ditched the expensive backup sensors and designed a brand new, clean PCB using only that cheap $1 sensor, and I felt ready. But then, while cleaning my PC, I randomly opened the sensor datasheet again and realized my fatal mistake. The sensor was gauge. Now let me explain the difference real quick so you understand how bad this is. A differential sensor has 2 ports and measures the difference between them, so it can easily measure both SIP, which is negative pressure, and a PUF, which is positive pressure. A gauge sensor only measures relative to the atmospheric pressure in one direction. It only goes up, meaning it can measure a PUF but not a SIP. The entire board I just designed was completely useless. With the jury presentation just days away, I knew I had to nail it. I walked in, pitched the concept, broke down exactly how it works and who it helps, and answered their questions. I waited a bit and they actually approved the funding, which I was super hyped about. But then the logistic hit me like a truck. The problem was you absolutely cannot find these parts in Bulgaria. I had to import everything. But to get the funding money, I needed a pro forma invoice, which had to turn into an invoice from a strictly Bulgarian firm with no advance payments to be within specific price limits and so on and so on. And the Bulgarian intermediary firms, they looked at my massive bill of materials and realized that describing every single capacitor resistor for custom tariffs would be an absolute nightmare and just refused to deal with it. For months I was trapped. A vendor would seem legit, I'd get my hopes up, I would literally redesign my PCB to match the parts they had in stock, and then the deal would fall through. My dreams just kept getting crushed. I literally begged one poor manufacturer in China to change an invoice 5 different times. I hated myself for it, and the craziest part? After all those months of emails and redesigns, I bought absolutely nothing. The funding period was running out, and I didn't have a single part. So I used the budget to buy a resin printer and brought the manufacturing home. I turned my balcony into a Breaking Bad chemistry lab. The smell was awful and I wore so much PPE I looked like I was going to Chernobyl. But right after that I took a break and decided to completely redesign the board from scratch. Make it compact, keep the bill of materials tiny, and make it easy to hand solder. For the MCU I picked the CH552G chip. It's dirt cheap, has native USB, and needs almost no external components. But here's the crazy part. When I was looking up how to actually wire the chip, I found a bunch of schematics online from other people, and according to the datasheet, they were all wrong. It literally looked like one guy made a mistake years ago, and then everyone else just blindly copy-pasted his homework. So I decided to ignore them, trust my gut and the poorly translated English datasheet, and just wire it my own way. Now, I could have made this board a dollar or two cheaper, but I would have ruined the experience. For example, I could have used an old micro USB port, but who wants to dig for a micro USB cable with data lines in 2026? So I went with a through-hole USB-C connector to make the soldering easier. I also added a dedicated TSD protection chip because without it, one static shock from your finger and the whole board is fried. And the joystick, I used the Hall effect joystick because standard ones use potentiometers that wear out and get stick drift really fast, which is miserable to use. So small details like that, but they make the device actually reliable. And I finally found a new pressure sensor that actually works. It's differential, runs on 5 volts, and has the perfect measurement range. I also decided to make a version with two pressure sensors to give the user more freedom. But looking at the soldering requirements, I kinda got scared, because if you put them too close, the heat from soldering the second one might literally cook the first one. So I designed two different dual sensor versions with completely different pad placements to avoid heat damage and signal noise. I panelized all these designs onto one massive board and sent it off to PCBWay, who are actually sponsoring this video. And honestly, thank God they are. After my months-long logistic nightmare trying to source parts locally, using their Turkey assembly was like breathing fresh air. And I'm not just saying this for that. When one of my new sensors went out of stock right in the middle of assembly, they didn't cancel my order. Instead, they emailed me instantly. And it gets even worse. I somehow managed to completely confuse my silkscreen layer with my solder paste layer. And instead of manufacturing a doomed, useless board, their engineers actually checked my files, caught the mistake, and fixed it for me, which saved me from an actual mental breakdown. So if you're building a project and you don't want to deal with the absolute misery of hunting down tiny components and hand soldering SMDs, they will do it for you. And they actually care about their customers. The quality is insane, so huge thanks to them for keeping my sanity intact on this project. There is a link in the description to check them out. But even with the perfect hardware, the software was a whole different beast. For the firmware, I refused to install a separate miserable IDE like I did on my last project, so I forced this thing to work in Arduino. It took a ton of configuring. I actually tried to get ChatGPT to write the code for me, but the CH552 chip is so niche that the AI just hallucinated complete garbage. So I had to go back to the old days and basically write C code on paper, by hand. The Hall effect joystick was also a gamble. There was no schematic for the specific one I had online. I had to physically take the joystick apart, trace the tiny copper pads, and guess which pin was VCC and which was ground. A 50-50 chance of frying the board. With the firmware finally working, the last physical step was the enclosure. I fired up CAT and somehow ended up designing something that looks exactly like a Coca-Cola bottle. And honestly, I kinda liked it. So I just rolled with it. I used the resin printer I bought with the funding money to print them out on my balcony. Now, if you've never used a resin printer, let me warn you, it's a sticky, toxic nightmare. I had to go through the whole miserable process of washing the prints in isopropyl alcohol and then curing them in a UV station. So the hardware and the physical device were totally done, but I wanted it to be plug and play. So I built a web app using WebUSB. You just plug the device in and you can flash the firmware right from your browser to map out your short paths, long paths, mouse clicks and even macros. But here is the catch. The flash memory on this chip is microscopic. I'm talking smaller than a low-res picture of a potato. Trying to fit an entire web flashing protocol and all these customizable actions into this tiny chip was an absolute nightmare. I had to optimize the C code so aggressively that I was literally fighting for single bytes of memory, and unfortunately, not everything I imagined managed to work. And the worst part? The chip has a very limited number of flash cycles before the memory permanently dies and the board is bricked. I'm the kind of person who reflashes the entire board just to test a single typo. So the whole time I was coding this, I was sweating, terrified I was going to kill the chip before I even finished the project. And because I clearly don't value my free time, I kinda over-engineered the site with unit tests, end-to-end tests, linting, and GitHub actions to automatically compile everything and update it on the website. And that's L.I.P.S. Because the whole goal of this project is to create an affordable accessibility tool for people who genuinely need it, I wanted to make sure it belongs to the community. The entire project, from the codes, the schematics, and the 3D models, is completely free and open source on my GitHub, which you can find linked right down in the description. To be completely honest, this is the absolute best solution I could come up with on my own. But I'm just one person, and I'm sure some of you might look at this from a completely different angle, spot something I missed, or see a way to improve it that I never would have thought of. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.